All right, we are now recording. We're going to call the meeting to order. This is a regular meeting of the Montgomery Select-Board and Water Commission. Today is December 1st, 2025 at 6:35 p.m. First item of business is to review and make any changes to the agenda. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
I have two additions.
Two additions.
Western Star truck discussion, the new Western Star truck.
What, the new what?
Western Star.
Oh, Western Star.
And then Creamy Bridge Road turnaround.
Okay, I'll put those under, if it's okay, we'll do that under Public Works. Item
Yeah.
D, we'll just kind of,
Yeah.
great. Are there any other additions or deletions to the agenda? All right, hearing none, we will move on to the minutes of November 17th. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of November 17th as written?
Oh wait, there's an addition. Didn't we did not vote to approve the previous November.
That's correct.
Oh, we didn't.
So we have to
Yep.
add
No.
those.
All right, so that
So-
would be, anybody have a date?
Yeah, that would be
November 3rd.
10th?
November
Third.
3rd.
The third.
3rd. Oh yeah,
Third.
2 weeks, not 1 week.
Yeah.
third.
3rd. Okay. All right, we have now added the November 3rd minutes as well. So we'll do the November 3rd minutes first. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the November 3rd meeting as written?
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Daniel. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thanks, Leanne. Motion made and seconded. Is there any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, we will vote. All those in favor of approving the minutes as written, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries, and you approve the minutes of November 3rd. Next up, is there a motion to approve the minutes of November 17th as written?
Can you bring up the 17th?
Sure.
We have to change that, where we maybe make a motion to pay me by salary. It needs to be changed to.
I mean, technically, because we can't physically do that, like, I don't know if we need to.
Well, I'm just saying we probably should change it, or just leave that off the minutes.
Yeah, I wouldn't delete it because it happened.
Well,
If we want to take an action later in this meeting to change something, we can. I just.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Just leave it on there for now.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, motion to approve as written.
All right. Motion from Dan. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Yeah.
Tie goes to Mark. Made and seconded. Any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? And I was not here, so I will abstain. So motion or minutes approved, 4 with 1 abstaining. All right, next up is the short-term rental ordinance. So this is a draft of the ordinance as approved by the Planning Commission. It's attached to your agenda. It's also been posted on the website and a couple other locations. What I'd like to do is give someone from the Planning Commission a few minutes to introduce the topic, give any background that the commission wants to do. Then we'll open it up to public comment, and then we will have a discussion as a board. Is the Planning Commission okay answering questions that come up? Okay. So if questions do come up during public comment or board discussion, we can direct them to the Planning Commission. All I would ask is that folks limit their comments to 3-4 minutes max. We don't have a huge room, so we can go around and then come around again if we want, but we do want to kind of try to move through it efficiently. So with that, I'll turn it over to whoever wants to introduce this and give any background you want to give, and we'll go from there.
Probably tag team, but
Sure, you can.
We also have Diane and Kim on Zoom. I don't know who else is on Zoom, but I know Diane and Kim should both be there.
Great.
so if you guys want to chime in, please feel free. Well, my name's Patrick. I guess I'm the chair of the Planning Commission. We started this process, well, about a year ago, at least a year ago, and started and stopped a few times. It's kind of part of the process is we really don't know what we have out there. So we're trying to get our arms around, as with many towns that are struggling, like especially ski towns like Stowe, struggling with how many short-term rentals they have and how big of an impact that's having on their long-term housing stock. Because one of the big goals that we have been working on in the planning commission is also trying to figure out a way to stimulate more long-term housing.
I'm sorry, Patrick, it's very hard to hear. Is there any way you could get a little louder, please? Thank you very much.
Is the shotgun mic picking him up? It's right.
Yeah, it should be. Is this better?
A little bit. I don't know. Do you just talk a little louder, or if
It's-
that's all we got, we'll try to.
Yeah, it's just weird because the mic is right in front of him. So if you want, you want to grab one of these and talk into it.
You want me to bring it for your knee, or do you want to go there?
How far it goes? No, let me grab a chair. Okay, I'm done. No. No, part of the whole goal of doing this, is this better? I'm sorry.
Much, much better. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, part of the goal of doing the short-term rental ordinance obviously is trying to get an assessment of what is out there for short-term rentals and what impact that's having on our long-term housing stock. Because again, part of the big goal, and we meaning the planning commission, we are in the process of revising the zoning bylaws to kind of complement this or whatever we come up with and try to obviously create more long-term housing or give incentives, I guess, which is also a state mandate. So that's it in a nutshell from me. And we didn't reinvent the wheel. We took bits and pieces of ordinances that have passed in other towns. And fortunately, we have, well, Alyssa and Diane and Kim, they were all instrumental in, especially Diane with her legal background was instrumental in really refining this and making it in compliance with a lot of the state regs and laws. So anyway, Alyssa, you have anything to add? Or?
No, I guess once there's questions.
Okay.
We do have 2 physical copies for reference. We don't have enough for everybody, so if you'd like to grab one to refer to it, use it, and then if you're done using it, put it on back.
Yeah. And if the shotgun mic isn't picking up stuff, maybe what we can do is, Patrick, if you want to slide the chair over here, that way the camera can see better, and we can just turn this mic for now. If you need it, you can recapture your mic. And then so that if when we do public comment, folks can come up and sit and then talk directly into the mic. So at this point, anybody on the Planning Commission online want to weigh in or add some context or color commentary?
No, I think that was a good summary of, what our goal was and what we've been working towards.
Thanks, Kim. Diane, anything?
I also don't have anything to add. I would just say the FAQ document that since people read it should give you a pretty good, the nuts and bolts part of it. We could go over it, but it seems like not a good use of time, so.
Yep, we can certainly refer to it. I've got it pulled up, and I think other folks do here as well, so if we need to refer to it, we've got copies.
Charlie, I also think it was to help the DRB too, with, when they come up, the short-term rentals come up to DRB meeting, they have more to go by, so that everything stays the same, yeah.
Yeah, that was one question that I had, and if we want to get into it now, I guess we can, and then we can open up the comment. But one of the questions was, so we have this current process through conditional use review that we've been using to essentially permit STRs. And so I think one kind of broad question is, how does this ordinance interact or relate to that process? And how is this an improvement on that process?
Or otherwise.
Or otherwise, I guess.
Well, our zoning doesn't,
I just want to pause real quick. Are folks online still able to hear when Parma speaks? Okay.
That'd be better. Appreciate you taking the extra step. Thank you very much.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Our zoning does not address short-term rentals. So right now, the permits that we are giving out are coming under a lodging establishment. We are putting out permits, conditional uses, and we have a list of that we go by. But technically, if someone wants to really challenge these, they can do this without a conditional use because our zone is so vague. When the zoning was written, this was never came about. So, and because it is so vague, there have been a couple instances where it's cost the town some money because we've had some that have been appealed. So we need something that is very, very specific, and it has been putting a lot of pressure on the DRB. I mean, everybody thinks, not everybody thinks, but, you know, we come to the meeting, we listen, we have to have very precise minutes, we have to have a recording, and then we have to do a decision. If that decision is not written out the way it should be, it's a technicality, they can come back and not have to get the permit. The Planning Commission has done a fabulous job getting this done, and I think it's an excellent, excellent ordinance. And I think the town would benefit a lot from having this ordinance. The biggest problem is the enforcement.
Yeah, so we'll get into that
Okay.
conversation. Related to the current conditional use approval, is the intent that this ordinance would exist and conditional use would still be required?
It would be, the intent would, that it would be replacing, and since we're working on our zoning bylaws currently that we were talking about, we could, I think Diane could speak to this a little more clearly, but that we could, in the zoning bylaws, we could rule where short-term rentals are allowed if we wanted to designate certain areas for short-term rentals, but then the actual and short-term rental enforcement of the conditional use, it would be permitted in the areas we decided to allow it, and then it would be regulated through the ordinance.
So is there a potential window after this gets passed, if it gets passed and adopted, and the zoning bylaws get amended, adopted, is there a window in there where we're like not on totally solid ground about whether we have to go through conditional use or not, or like we can legally kind of just be like, all right, we're no longer doing conditional use for this, like that's okay?
One or the other.
Okay.
I get what you're saying though, of how that transition would happen.
It sounds like zoning.
I think we could talk to Emily at regional about how to do that transition the smoothest. And I know one thing that no decisions have been made, but what we discussed as the planning commission is if we would want to, the people who have gotten conditional use in the past, if we would want to change their initial registration fees to like take in consideration the money they spent for their conditional use. So I think that's something we could.
Yeah.
And
That's a note, yeah.
Yeah, think
Okay.
about further. But Diane, do you have more to explain how it would be bylaws and the ordinance working together?
I don't necessarily have anything more than that. Yeah, I think like that's a good question. How you would, I feel like there's probably some way to make it work. But I agree that, yeah, there might be some sort of transition period that you might be able to address via, fee waivers and things like that. But I guess the only other thing I would add is that, to the extent that a condition in a conditional use permit conflicted with this ordinance, if you were to pass this ordinance, the idea would be that the ordinance would control so there wouldn't be conflicts there, to the extent people are worried about that. But that is sort of a question, for the enforcement person, that that's the intent. But yeah, it's a good question. How does that exactly work? Might come down to timing and I suspect there's a way to do it well, though.
Great. Thank you, Diane. Any other questions related directly to the current conditional
Yes.
use? Okay, I just want, let's keep on that topic. So Barry, go ahead.
Right now, we have a zoning ordinance that gives a definition of lodging establishments that has not been challenged. We've considered short-term rentals to be a type of lodging establishment. The problem with the ordinance in terms of lodging establishment is it doesn't really set any criteria for giving conditional use permits.
You mean the
Now-
bylaws, when you say, you mean the bylaws right now is where you said the zoning?
Yeah, well, we have the zoning ordinance. Zoning ordinance, but it's,
Yeah.
they can be called ordinance, regulation,
I
bylaws,
just wanted to make sure I
whatever.
was thinking of the right thing.
Okay. Now, I think the ideal situation would be that an ordinance makes kind of global decisions as to what parts of town they're allowed in, how many are allowed, how many people per bedroom, and things like that. But those that are discretionary decisions that deal with a particular project should still go to the DRB for conditional use. So so if you've got, somebody has a house in the middle of 100 acres, they're not going to need the same kind of conditions as somebody who's in the village, one of the villages, with neighbors across the street and one on, 10 feet away on each side.
So, but wouldn't the permit issued under this ordinance address?
But who's going to write the specific permit?
Yeah, so we got to get into that. But I'm just
Right.
saying, but
No, what I'm suggesting is that the ordinance talk about general issues that affect every short-term rental in a particular area, right? How many bedrooms, again, how many people per bedroom, how many parking spaces, et cetera. But whether or not a particular short-term rental application requires screening from the neighbors or an extended quiet time, things like that, are discretionary and should still continue to go to the board. And the board, through zoning, a change in the zoning ordinance, should have much clearer guidance as to what is allowed and what isn't allowed. Ideally, a perfect ordinance, if 3 different people were enforcing it, each one would enforce it pretty much the same. The way ours is, there's no need for consistency.
So put another way, are you suggesting that a new ordinance not include conditional factors and that the conditional factors be maintained and addressed by the DRB? So you want to keep a new ordinance clear
Right.
of the
Well,
conditional factors, like
there needs to be
screening
a
and-
change in the zoning regulations to catch up.
Which we are considering that. Some of the issues you brought up, screening, et cetera, we have addressed that in our draft zoning bylaw revisions. We're not quite there yet. But we are taking that into consideration and trying to make this, I guess, not coincide, but agree with the bylaws. Does that make sense, Alyssa? So I think Diane brought it up. We're trying to basically come up with a consistent process, a uniform process with a clear-cut standards and rules, I guess, for short-term rentals. And that will, what we're doing with the zoning bylaws, that will complement each other, I guess.
So Barry, just to clarify though, are you saying that, you're still saying that long-term, short-term rentals would not have to go through conditional use review at the DRB and the ordinance?
No, I didn't say that. That's the opposite of what I said.
Okay, I guess I misunderstood that you were saying the board should still set conditions.
Right, well,
'Cause
yeah.
my understanding,
conditions, yeah.
but my understanding would be that once the ordinance is in place, unless the DRB is designated as the enforcement mechanism,
That's
none
not
of this would go to the DRB anymore.
Exactly.
That's not enforcement. Setting
Well-
the conditions is not enforcement.
Well, we'll
No.
get to that.
But we,
Yeah.
okay.
This is Kim on Zoom. I don't know how to raise my hand through my phone.
Okay, Kim, go ahead.
Okay?
Yeah.
This is the first step. There's a number of pieces that are all connected, so there are moving parts that are affecting each other. We, as the planning commission, have to bring this draft first before we can change any of the zoning bylaws to be in conformity for the two to work hand in hand. Whether this piece of it is approved or not, or even going to be considered moving forward, affects what we will need to or not need to do when we get back to the zoning bylaws. Does that make sense?
Yep. Thank you, Kim. Okay, so,
Can I just say something about that same topic?
yes, go ahead.
I would hate to see that a person that wants to do a short-term rental would have to go through two processes. I wouldn't want them to have to go to the board, DRB, and then have to go to whoever's gonna manage the ordinance. That's too much. And I liked the way he said it, that the zoning regulations will tell you where they're appropriate, will tell you where they're permitted. And from that, the ordinance kicks in. And the ordinance has all the conditions that have to be met, which are the same conditions that we've been using, but it has some firepower behind it.
And I think that one of the goals was to have the ordinance be, and more, like, it takes out the, and, yeah, that's the word I was looking, it takes out the subjectiveness, and then it's clear for somebody to see what all the conditions are before they get to the point of having a DRB hearing, and then hearing what the conditions are.
Okay. Sure. And it sounds like what the planning commission is saying is that when the zoning bylaws are redone, there is the potential that STRs may be permitted uses in certain districts. They may also be, what's the word?
Prohibited?
Prohibited in certain districts, but they would not be conditional in any district.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, anything else on the conditional use process while we're on that topic?
I don't know what that means.
Anything related to the current process STRs go through and how it intersects with the ordinance, I guess is the question I've got. Sarita, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, hi.
Do you want to, why don't we do this? Why don't, Patrick, I don't want to dislodge you, but if folks that are commenting want to come up and speak directly into the mic, that way we can ensure that we've captured you.
Okay, so Alyssa said something about the zoning, that the zoning is sort of a bird's eye view, it sets all the things. And potentially you could also be then designating certain areas that you can't do rentals. Maybe they're in Village 2, I don't know, out in the middle of the Gibbo. That's scary to me because people have, since J Peak was open, have been renting out their places. They're not mentioned in the zoning because it was never an issue. But now it's almost like, to me, it seems a little bit about regulation creep, if that makes sense. That I can understand that there's a need for the safety of people. That is now being taken care of by Airbnb, VRBO. I mean, you can't rent a place unless you've got the carbon monoxide, you've got the safety standards in the homes. Insurance companies, they insist on the regulations as well. So from the safety aspect, that is taken care of by those other entities that are not necessarily the town. What's I going to say? Sorry, I had it all here. But, yeah, is there any plans for grandfathering in things? Because people have been renting here for ages and ages. And if, you know, all of a sudden now there's new rules that say, well, this area can't be rented.
Currently, in this, like our current zoning bylaws we have right now, it is conditional use in Village 1, Village 2, in rural residential, and prohibited in Con 1 and Con 2 is how our current bylaws read.
Okay, but that might change in the future? I mean,
It would go through the zoning bylaw process where the whole entire town would vote on the bylaws for any change like that.
okay. So, all right, okay. So the other things aren't necessarily related to the conditional use, so I'll come
If-
back.
Anything else on the conditional use process? If not, let's jump into other stuff. So Sarita, why don't you, if you have other
couple of
comments
others.
you want to make while you're up here, go for it.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so the $300 for the initial fee, it just seems like it's very unfair if it's not prorated for different size properties. I mean, Gretchen's little 100 square foot tiny home would have to be rented quite a bit to cover it compared to somebody that's got a 5-bedroom huge house. It puts a disproportionate share based on the size. I just think that's terribly unfair. And I just wanted clarification as to whether the thought of the approvals is going to the person or the property.
Do you mean like, would it carry on?
Would it carry on to the property or
No, it's to the person.
to the person? So if that person owns more than one property or two properties, it's still the same person. Would that be one fee or two or three fees?
I think we have it as one. Let me find the area.
I think you have it
In the
as,
same building, it would be one.
If it's the same building,
Dwelling
it's one.
unit.
Oops, sorry, go ahead, Diane.
Just per dwelling unit.
Per dwelling unit.
So it'd be
You need a
2 or 3.
different registration per dwelling unit.
okay, even though it's the same person that's, okay, that clarifies that. So then, the, every year, $250. I mean, if you've got 100 or 200 Airbnbs or short-term rentals in the area, you know, this is a lot of money we're talking about, $30,000, $60,000 a year. Once your initial thing's gone, you know, that you've been approved, it just seems like it's a bit of a money grab. I'm sorry. It just seems prohibitive.
I think the fees could get, like, the idea of the fee is to pay for an enforcer for it. So if we found that it was generating too much money and it was more than what was needed to cover an enforcement person, then we would reduce the
But
fees.
how many issues have there been over the past 20 years for enforcement of an issue of sound or noise or, I don't know?
I think the enforcement would also be the fees to cover the registration, and so then we would have a registry and actually know how many units are in town.
Yeah, and that's $30,000 worth of registry? I mean, I'm sorry, I don't mean to sound cheap or a thing. It just seems to me that it's a lot of money covering an industry that has been around since forever. And I don't know, it just seems really regulation creep. So, okay.
Thanks, Sarita. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go around the room and get comments from folks, and then we'll go to the Zoom afterwards, just because it's hard to keep track of both screens. So if folks on Zoom don't mind just holding tight for now, we're gonna keep going around the room. So I think the next, I saw, Carol, I think I saw your hand go up.
Well, yeah, but I can do it in any order.
No, let's just, I saw your hand go up, so why don't you come up and speak, and we'll keep going around.
Before I forget. I guess I would be speaking, certainly I'm in favor of the ordinance. I think it's needed. I think, yes, there've been short-term rentals around for a long time, but we've seen that it has had a negative impact on our community as far as local people trying to find rental properties more long-term. So I think it's needed to have a registration. I think it's needed to have people pay a fee to do it, to cover all the things that you've stated. I don't think that $300 a year is too much, considering the amount of money that people get on a short-term rental. If somebody has 100 properties, I'm astounded if that's the case. And if that's the case, they certainly can afford to pay the fee on each one of those properties, because talk about a money grab, they're making a lot of money on that much of a rental. And because if they weren't profitable, they wouldn't have that many. One thing that isn't addressed, and probably because it would be too difficult to address. But I have read of some communities who are trying to restrict short-term rentals to homeowners, people who live in the community or in a short distance around the community, and trying to restrict corporations coming in. Now, I know there's some people who incorporate in order to handle that part of their business. To me, that's a little different than investment people who all they're doing is buying up local properties and putting housing in them. I'm against that. The more that properties go into short-term rentals, the more degradation there is to our community as a whole. People who only are here for a short time are not part of our community. We don't want to lose the basis of our community, and we need to maintain a population in our community that acts as a community, supports each other as a community. So that's the only thing that scares me a bit, is the idea of somebody from New York saying, well, I'm going to buy up 3 properties up there just for investment. And I don't think that's right. If Sarita wants to have 5 properties, that's fine. She lives here. Her roots are here. But to me, there's a difference. But other than that, I think it's a good thing. It's a good step in the right direction. We'll find out. We need to know how many there are. And the enforcement, I think, is going to come from trying to make sure that people, in fact, do register. And I think that's what's important. We need to know who's here, how long they're here, and how much they're here. And I would agree that I don't think they belong in Con 1 and 2. There's a reason those areas are designated conservation areas, and I think they need to remain conservation areas. They shouldn't be having any kind of permanent housing up there anyway. So that's my spin.
Thanks, Carol. Thanks, Carol. Yes, why don't you come up and you can.
Hi. My name is Judith Lapointe. I don't live in Alpine Haven. I have a second home in Alpine Haven. I've been coming down here since 1966. I grew up here. Even if I don't live here, I know a lot of people. So for me, what it represents is I rented like maybe 15 days in the winter, so now I see 14 days, but 15 days in the winter. I never rented in summer. And even if I didn't rent it, I wouldn't rent it long term because it's my house, it's my home, and I don't really like renting it, but it helps me pay the bill because Alpine Haven is very expensive. I know you'll say move out of there, but I've been there for 21 years in that place. So for me, I keep reading it, so it's applicable for me if I rent for a period of fewer than 30 consecutive days. So I have to rent less than, it applies to me if it's less than 30 days, but more than 14 days. That's correct? Is that my understanding?
I think this is saying that short-term rental means a furnished house, condominium, or other dwelling, for a period of fewer than 30 days and more than 14. So if it's
More than 14
aggregate.
yeah, exactly.
Of the year, not
I wasn't done with my sentence. Okay. So if you're renting it for more than 30 days, that constitutes a long-term rental.
And that's consecutive days.
Yes.
So like if I were rented for a month.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I don't. I rented like 4 days.
Yep.
Like this year I've got 12 days rental. The rest I use it because I want to ski. It's it's my house.
Yep.
So for me, I know $300 is not much, but I rent it to 4 people in Alpine Haven. I don't disturb them. For me I know it sounds, but 300 is 300 compared to add. So I don't know. So maybe I'll keep it down to 14 days and I'll be fine. But I mean, it's not.
Would it be more palatable if it was more than 14 days? If it was is that something you would advocate for? Otherwise, are you for it, I guess? Is that like
If
a,
it was 30, like no,
yeah, like fewer than 25 days or 30 days? Like, is that something that addresses your concern?
Well, it would be at the most, the most I rented 1 year was 18 days.
Okay, so I mean, that's there, that's close, yeah.
Not
Okay.
consecutive.
That's the,
Yeah,
Were
non-consecutive.
they separate?
Yeah.
yeah.
We're gonna keep
Yeah, okay.
Going around,
that's-
yeah.
Just, so for me, that's what I want to say.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Anyone in the room who hasn't spoke yet that they'd like to speak? Long time no see.
Hi, Charlie. I'm not here to bitch, trust me. I'm here to ask questions, actually. Okay? So that's where, because I've talked to Alyssa, I've talked to a few people. This long-term and short-term, it's confusing to me. Because I know we need people to rent, but then, well, we have a house right above our house. It was gonna be an Airbnb, but then he lost money, or he didn't work on it anymore, so now it's a storage unit. But we're thinking about making it to an Airbnb, because eventually, we have a 3-year plan. We wanna sell our house and move down where he's got a building now. So, but we'd like to keep the house here and just rent it out to pay the taxes. Because the taxes for a person that don't live there cost quite a bit. So the $300 would really mess it up. So what's the difference between a short term and a long term? Long term is where people sign a lease and rent it, and then they damage the house, then you have to put the money back into the house to get it fixed again. And short term is just the weekend here and there, right?
that is a generalization about long-term rentals.
Yeah.
They are not all destructive.
Right.
Also short-term. I've seen some pretty
Yeah.
destructive short-term rentals.
This is
I lived in
true.
my house 10 years before I bought it.
Yeah.
I rented it for 10 years, so,
Yeah.
but I want to know where we should go from here. Basically, that's why I'm here. I want to learn more about this stuff. So should I invest in that as a short term? Or should I just burn the friggin' thing down?
I don't think as a board we make investment advice.
Or advocate arson. Arson.
You know what I mean? I don't mean that. But it is confusing with all of this.
So one of your questions was, what's the difference between a short and a long-term rental? And it sounds like the ordinance just sticks to the state's 30 days. It's, at 29 days, it's not a short, long-term rental, and as soon as it hits a month, then you invoke the long-term renter tenant laws. Yeah.
Then again, how can, we own this house, we own both of our houses. Who gives somebody the right to tell us we can't do what we want with it? Who? I mean,
The town.
the town, but I mean, trust me, it's my house. I ain't gonna put anybody that's a drug addict, because I'd kick them right out. Never mind. But I would make sure they didn't, because we don't like noise around. We live up on a hill. We hear all the noise from town that comes up our hill. We got a dog behind us that are barking like crazy all day long. I don't mind that. We don't have no neighbors. But I know the town has the right to tell us to do stuff, but the town don't pay our bills. That's my big point. It's my property. Everybody pays their taxes. So then they gotta pay more if they wanna rent it for a couple days? I don't understand that.
So I guess what I would say is that, as far as the ordinance goes, if this board does adopt the ordinance, there will be a period of reconsideration whereby a petition can get submitted that would put it to a full town vote. And so if those that don't like the ordinance gather enough signatures, they can put it to a public
More
vote.
exercise, Teresa.
So I could go back and collect
You can do that,
signatures
and
again?
then as Alyssa said, when the time comes for zoning bylaw revisions, those go to the town automatically. And so I think every town makes implicit decisions as to, do you have zoning, do you not? What level does it have, what it doesn't, what ordinances do we have? So I'd say that's the recourse of property owners, residents of Montgomery, is using those levers to influence what the town does and doesn't do.
And who's gonna make all these, I talked to Liz today. are you gonna have another person, a town clerk, to see who pays for what?
I think that would be the
Enforcement
enforcement,
officer.
like whoever is the enforcement officer would be in charge
It'd
of
have to,
making
because
sure.
you can't add any more on them at the town clerks,
We
so
recognize
it's,
Yep.
see, it wasn't bad, Charlie, this time.
No, you're very well behaved. Well, thank you.
I ain't got nothing to bitch about yet, so,
Great. Well, thank you.
okay.
Anyone in the room who hasn't spoken yet have a comment they want to share? If not, we'll go to the Zoom and then we'll come back around for any follow-ups anybody has. So what I'm going to do is just go around the Zoom and do a Hollywood Squares. And so the top row, Randy, I've got you on my top row first. So winner, winner, chicken dinner, go ahead.
Hey there, thanks a lot. I'm here with my 1-year-old son, so maybe some audio interruptions. But, I want to echo, I agree with a lot of what I heard from folks. I think it's an admirable goal to bring short-term rentals under regulation and to try to keep properties available for folks to live here year-round and so forth. So I'm all in favor of that. And also another person who spoke, our family is kind of I think an exception to the rule of what is expected for short-term rentals. We also live in this in Montgomery, and we're active community members, see a lot of familiar faces in the community. About 6 months out of the year, and the other half of the year we live in Austin, Texas, where the other half of our family lives. So his other grandparents and so forth. So it's kind of important for us to keep up, our living situation in both places. And we do rent through Airbnb through a local company. Our property we're not here, and that's really just to defray the costs of having to keep us on properties. So the things I would echo is I think we're in support of trying to figure out how many properties there are, helping out with safety regulations, all that sounds smart. I think I would echo what somebody else said about, I think it just feels like you need to reconsider the fee structure. It is kind of a lot to ask people to find $300 more in this economy. That's, when it comes to people who are, outside the community, who are buying investment properties that could be used for long-term rentals, but they're using them for short-term rentals instead, those people are the people who are making it harder for folks to come and live in Montgomery. But other folks who are being targeted by this same policy are not those people. So you're just giving us another $300 in taxes per year. And so I think figuring that out in a different way might be smart. The justification for this specific amount was we might need to hire somebody to do enforcement. Okay, well, let's do the inventory first, figure out how many of these properties there are, how much an enforcement would actually cost, do the division, figure out what the fee structure should be. It sounds like it's a shot in the dark, it's kind of a lot of money for some of us. I really did appreciate the suggestion of target folks who are outside the community just buy investment properties. For ourselves, we've thought a lot about rather than doing Airbnb 6-month rentals, because it wouldn't solve the problem of folks looking for housing, but it could be a short-term solution that could help people find their way into Montgomery longer term. But the state of Vermont just makes that very risky for us, because if we had a tenant who refused to leave the property, we'd basically be renting in a hotel with no recourse. So it just didn't seem like a worthwhile risk for us, or else we'd be attempting to use our property in those ways. But we don't have any other, it's not really an investment property for us. It's not, it's just so we can live in both places where our families are. That was my comments, and I think I'd be in support of this if the fee structure could be reconsidered and understood a little better. It does seem, the way it's explained in the documentation stuff, again, by the way, it was $300, so I think it needs to be explained better and better considered how it's calculated. Okay, say bye. Thanks very much for your time.
Bye, thanks Randy.
Thanks, Randy.
I do want to give the planning commission just a chance, if you want, is there any additional background on the fee structure that you want to provide in terms of we looked at a bunch of ordinances across the state and this was what we were seeing, or we pulled it out of a hat? What'd you come up with?
Your second option. Oops, sorry. We looked and reviewed, how many ordinances from at least 5 or 6. And some, obviously Stowe, given a tourist town,
Killington.
Yeah, the little town down, Londonderry, Burlington, which we didn't even touch that. That was too complicated and too restrictive. We did review 5 or 6, so to answer your question, it wasn't a shot in the dark. It was definitely based on what other towns were assessing. Fairfield, we looked at Fairfield too. And our initial fee structure, to be honest with you, was a little bit higher than this. And it wasn't uniform, so we did revise it downward to get what you have in front of you.
Okay.
Sorry, we've been doing this for a year, so.
Yeah.
Melissa, you remember anything differently, or? No,
No.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
And is this, oh,
It was basically an amalgamation of many other short-term ordinances
Okay.
that have been passed.
Great. Thanks, Patrick. Did you have a question for Patrick?
yeah, is this, the fee structure that you came up with, the $300, is that also responsive to like the cost that you've established for like an hourly waged employee who would be addressing this? Or is that reflective to
And
that?
I don't think we know how many hours yet.
Sure.
So we haven't broken it
Okay.
down that much yet.
And the big unknown is, again, we don't know how many short-term rentals are in existence right now. We have a general idea, because about a year ago, we did that air DNA.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask.
Emily remembers 77, and somebody else remembered 85. But that's not 100% accurate either.
I know it is tricky because also a lot of lodging establishments locally, of which I own one, we list each individual room on Airbnb as well. So it's hard to get that information. It's definitely perfect.
And
just
it might have
aggregate that.
captured, I don't know if it captured like, the inn and Phineas Swan, but.
Okay.
I have a question. So, thinking about this $300 fee a year, and thinking about, I'm wondering if there has been any research into, okay, so let's say I have something that I want to rent, how much people are asking per night, per weekend, per week, and how that evens out next to $300 a year.
And
So,
we did talk about that at one point, if it could be based on a per night, but most Airbnbs we found, their price varies of on-season, off-season, weekends, holidays. So, and.
I just don't think that $300 a year is prohibitive.
And I'm trying to find the page it's on, but it was 300 for the first time you applied.
Right, and then
so-
$250 for the year
yeah.
after.
After that.
Yeah,
So
it's
just-
on page 8.
Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have that specific data on the average.
I'm just
per
going
night
to
rentals.
guess, like, as being a person who has looked at going places and renting a place like this, I mean, I've seen like $3,000 or $3,300 a week,
Oh, yeah.
which, if you're renting out for several weeks in a year, I'm just saying, I don't think 300 is too much.
in Montgomery, I'm looking at Airbnb right now. For a Wednesday night in the middle of May, which is off-season, for a one-bedroom house or apartment where not a room, but a private dwelling, I mean, there's one here for 307, one for 400. The lowest one I'm seeing is 129.
And it's not like going
And
to a
that's for
hostel where you're
one
gonna pay
night.
like $0 or
Okay.
$25 a night.
So I don't want to, let's not go down the rabbit hole.
Anyway,
But
I'm done.
understood. Thanks, Leanne.
Just as a friend.
Yep.
I did have one question for the planning commission. Did you guys see any other ordinances that didn't do annual renewal fees? Like, were there any ordinances where once you register, it's like either every 5 years, or is it sort of like when the grand list changes, or sort of like if the tax, the valuation of the property changes, or kind of register and then when you change your use, then it expires, sort of thing? Like, what's the carry cost?
If we did that, how would the enforcement get covered if there wasn't an annual fee?
I mean,
Yeah, sorry.
could an ordinance come with like a bill, like if you then have to go and enforce, it's billed at an hourly rate that their registered property or dwelling has to pay for? So, does that make sense? Like,
I understand.
Yeah.
I guess I was just trying to understand the person who's taking on that job then it would be a very like,
So if there's the upfront cost of like going to see the place and make sure the boxes are checked, $300, great. And then if nothing changes and it kind of still, there's a degree of self-reporting, if it's required for someone to then go back out, you pay that hourly rate for that, instance.
I
Like,
guess
is there anything like that? I was curious.
the enforcement agent wouldn't have any predictability of what their income would be from this job they're taking on, so then it might be hard to hold
Sure,
somebody
that's a good
being
point,
an
yep.
enforcement officer if it's like, oh, you could get this much or.
Yeah.
Well, that's how we do like a.
To answer your
Ban
question
things.
too, all the short-term rental ordinances I reviewed from other towns, they all had an annual fee, which South Burlington had a really good one. However, they were regulating and keeping track of both long and short-term rentals. And obviously, they're raising quite a bit of money because their fee structure is higher than ours, or what we're proposing. And they are using that to fund a full-time position. We're hoping that this could potentially fund a part-time position, but that's up to the select board, obviously.
Or we could create a town administrator position, and this could be one of the duties, and the income could help offset the cost of that
Hear, hear,
position.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Tell us how you really feel, Charlie. And then, and one other thought just on that was, if there was sort of, we have a great, a volunteer fire department here. I have no idea whether you guys have spoken or gotten input from them or Doug, but if this was an opportunity for them to make money for the volunteer fire department as well, so that, like, if they were then, like, could an ordinance deputize our volunteer fire department to do something like that?
My understanding, and I could understand it wrong, that fees have to cover the administrative costs for it to be a fee. I think Barry is,
Thank
like,
you.
is that, like,
Yeah,
I
a
think I
tax
got
is a tax, a fee is a fee.
Okay.
Okay. I do want to keep going around the Zoom, just to give everyone a chance to speak, and then we'll do a round two. So next up on my Zoom is Edward. Edward, if you've got a comment to share, feel free to hop off.
And a last name.
And,
Hi, it's actually Lori. I just couldn't figure out how to change the name.
oh, hi, Lori.
Hi. So I'm a little confused on I'm going to go right back to the application fee because it says $300 per dwelling unit. So, for instance, I'll use Daniel because I know he does Airbnb with all his little individual houses. Does that mean Daniel has to pay $300 for each one of his little buildings every year for an application fee?
I am a commercial establishment. I'm a lodging. I have a license as a commercial lodging establishment.
Okay.
But otherwise, yes.
But otherwise, yes.
Okay. So a dwelling unit in this instance is considered, well, say where I live, there's multiple options for different units to be, or different apartments in the same building to be rented.
Yep.
But it's all under one roof. Is that one dwelling unit?
No. So I think a good example of this might be, so the house on Main Street that used to have the yarn shop in it. So
Yeah.
that house has got 3 apartments, and then it's got, I think, like 4 bedrooms. The bedrooms get rented out. So my understanding would be that's 4 dwelling units. It's 3 apartments and then 4 bedrooms that are part of the larger dwelling unit.
Diane, can you address that? I don't think so.
But a bedroom isn't a dwelling unit, right?
Correct.
Right.
Yes, I think, I understood Charlie to be, I don't know the exact structure of that building, but I understand you to be saying, yeah, exactly, it's like every individual apartment is a dwelling unit, but a bedroom is not a dwelling unit. But if you have 4 apartments in a building, you have 4 dwelling units. Like a duplex is 2 dwelling units. That's probably the easiest example. A duplex is 2 dwelling units. It's not one, even if the walls are shared.
Yep.
But if somebody's renting 2 bedrooms from their house, then that would be one dwelling.
One dwelling unit, yeah. So
I think it
Lori,
exempts 2 bedrooms. doesn't it?
Okay, well, if somebody's renting 3 bedrooms in there.
yeah. So Lori, does that answer your question as to what qualifies and not?
I think I got it now. I think I got it now, but I have to agree. I think that $300 could be a little excessive because first and foremost, you know, if something's rented as an Airbnb, you don't really know what it's being rented for, but then the person doesn't get the whole fee. Part of it goes towards cleaning, part of it goes towards Airbnb itself, then there's taxes and fees, so I think that needs to be looked at further. And I agree with Randy, I think it was Randy who was speaking earlier, that was saying, you know, for somebody that lives out of town and has Airbnb and doesn't live in the community at all, that might need to be adjusted for somebody that's actually living in the building that is renting out Airbnbs, or somebody that lives in the neighborhood or in town.
Okay.
So those are just a few of my concerns or questions.
Okay, thanks Lori.
You're welcome.
We're gonna keep going around the Zoom and we're gonna go to Jen Worth next. Jen, if you've got a comment to share, you're welcome to come off mute. All right, we can go back to Jen. Let's go to Chris J next. Chris J, if you want to come off mute to share a comment on this topic, you're welcome to. And also, Chris, if we could just get your last name for the minutes, that would be great.
It's Chris Johnson.
Chris Johnson. Great, thank you.
Kind of looking at the 30 days and the 14, the state says 30 days, and Montgomery thinks 14 is more appropriate. Is that my understanding?
No, I think the 30 consecutive days is what qualifies a long-term rental. So I think what the ordinance is saying is that it has to be rented for less than 30 consecutive days to be considered a short-term rental. And the 14 days is per calendar year. So you could rent your place as a short-term rental for 14 days, and this ordinance would not be applicable to what you're doing. So the 14 days is kind of the cap on short-term rentals that can be done.
Floor, not the cap.
Well, it'll be the cap on nights you could rent before you trigger the ordinance. And the 30 consecutive days is saying that if you've rented for more than 30 consecutive days, this also does not apply to you. Does that help?
Yes.
Okay.
I was going to ask about the duties of the enforcer, kind of trying to understand the cost of setting. You know, like I understand what you were trying to say earlier was consistent, it would do more office duties, and that would offset the cost. But with the $300 fee, say there was 100 Airbnbs, that's $30K a year for, I don't actually know what the job duties are, where 150 would be 15K a year, which seems kind of more appropriate in the community for a part-time position. My other question was, how many incidents, like we speak of, there have been incidents, how many incidents has there kind of approximately been per year with these short-term rentals?
Yeah, I'm not sure if anybody's actually tracking these. DRB or Planning Commission, how many incidents have there been involving short-term rentals? DRB or Planning Commission, how many problems have come up?
We wouldn't know.
Yeah, I don't think we have a way of tracking those right now, Chris.
Okay, and I think that's pretty much it. You know, I understand we need to keep track, I understand we need for long-term housing, and again, I appreciate all the work everybody's doing. The more I see, the more I understand how much work is really going into this. Thank you all.
Great, thanks, Chris. Next up on Zoom is Roberta. Roberta, do you have any comments on this topic?
No comments on this topic.
Okay, thanks, Roberta. I'm going to go back to Jen Worth. Jen, if you want to come off mute, you're welcome to come off to provide a comment or question. All right, well, Jen, if you do happen to want to chime in, either raise your hand or just unmute and start yelling, and we'll hear you. All right, I'm going to go back to the room now, and we're going to do one more, hopefully relatively quick round of comments in the room, and then we'll go to board questions. Barry, you had a follow-up?
Yeah. It's not follow-up. The last time I was limited to speaking only on conditional use.
I apologize. This is your
okay, so this is the big one.
This is the big one.
Okay.
All right.
My most important comment is the ordinance really needs to have a statement saying that the town reserves the right to, in the future, have an ordinance and/or changes in zoning that are much more restrictive, and by reason of getting a permit under the ordinance, a person is not automatically grandfathered. We may wish at some point to say, okay, we should only have 20 units in town, or picking a number, right? And if it turns out that there are 80 or 100, let's remember, every short-term rental where you have a full house rental that is not somebody's vacation home also, where it's completely somebody in town or out of town owns a building and they use it only as a short-term rental, that's a residence that is not available for a homeowner or for a renter. And we're talking about the problems of affordable housing. I think in Montgomery, the biggest threat to affordable housing is short-term rentals. I've been on the DRB for about a year, and every month we have 1 or 2 applications of people who are taking houses that they're not living in. We've had 1 or 2 that are vacation homes, and I have no problem with that. But you have people that are coming from out of town, buying a house because they get a good deal on it from a bank that foreclosed on it or whatever, and instead of somebody buying it for their own residence or to use as a rental, it becomes a short-term rental. And 1 less resident, 1 less family or whatever we have renting in town. Okay, the other comments that I have is, okay, in terms of fee versus tax. A fee should be, I mean, every town in the state of Vermont, I'm pretty sure, violates this principle. But a fee is supposed to be an amount that's paid to cover the cost of administration. I think what the select board, rather the planning commission needs to do is to put together a spreadsheet of the costs. And from what I'm hearing, if there are 5 applications in a year, the costs are going to be a lot less than if there are 100 in a year, right? So you need to figure out how much time is going to be spent on each application. Figure $1 per hour, and other expenses that are accrued, and and that's what your fee should be. Now there are 3 different types of short-term rentals that I see. One is where a person lives in a house, and it's their residence, and they're renting out bedrooms. And what the ordinance provides for, which I think is very good, is anything over 2 bedrooms, it becomes a short-term rental. Under that, they're exempt. So they have no fee if they're renting less than 2 bedrooms. And if they're renting 3 bedrooms, obviously they're making more money than somebody who's renting 1 bedroom, and not as much as somebody who's renting 5 bedrooms. Then that raises the question, Well, let me go through the rest of the other
Can I
categories.
just, one clarifying question, or just a clarification on what you just said. So, a short-term rental, it is, under this ordinance, is not 2 or fewer individual bedrooms or other portions of a dwelling unit rented to the transient, traveling public, et cetera, in a resident occupied dwelling unit.
Right.
So, if you live in the premise and you rent 2 bedrooms, you are not a short-term rental. However, if it's a 2-bedroom house that you're renting, it's a short-term rental.
If you're renting the whole house,
It has to be
yes.
owner occupied.
Right.
Okay, just wanted to make sure that was
Or
clear.
resident
occupied,
It has to be resident occupied.
Right, resident meaning it's your permanent full-time residence. Now, another classification would be somebody who's been here, like Judith, she's been here for 150 years. And and has been renting, when she's not here, she rents it out. That imposes no burden on affordable housing. For as long as I've been here, almost half of the dwelling units in the town have been not not full-time residents, vacation homes. Renting vacation homes is not a problem, is not nearly as much of a problem for the town. And the third category is pure commercial. And it doesn't matter, I don't see how it matters, and I think you cannot make a distinction between somebody who owns a house, lives in a house in Montgomery, and owns another structure that they're renting out, as opposed to somebody who lives in, East Paducah and bought a house in Montgomery and is renting it out. In terms of, regulating them. The only difference, of course, would be that they have to have somebody, a local agent. Now,
Can I ask you a clarifying question? Because this is something that's come up a number of times. And so I understand the concept of differentiating between a vacation home versus a commercial property. But the only way I can think of to draw a line there would be to say that the person that owns it needs to be in it for a certain amount of time or can't. So where's that line? Where do you cross between I have a vacation home and I rent it to help cover the taxes versus I own a commercial property that's a rental and sometimes I use it? How do you differentiate between those?
you have a number, and it's gonna be an arbitrary number.
So right now,
Do the best you can.
So you're saying that right now the number that needs to be tweaked is that 14 days.
No. The 14 days is in the state definition of short-term rental.
But right now, that's what we're using to differentiate between a vacation home and a commercial property. Well, it's the only tool we have. There's nothing else that we're.
That's not a tool.
You can't really track.
That's like saying a
You can't be
screwdriver's the only tool we have for putting in a
This
nail.
doesn't speak to commercial.
But so what I'm asking is if you, maybe I shouldn't say commercial because it's not a, but what I'm saying is so what's the stop?
Save us a lot of time.
Hold on one second, Kim, let me finish. So if I buy a house here and I rent it out, say, 40 days out of the year, but otherwise it's my home. I come here a lot, I hang out, is that still a vacation home that I rent?
Okay, when you said I thought you were talking about yourself.
Well, me, somebody, if an individual.
Yeah, but you already have a house here. If a person from New Jersey buys a house in Montgomery, they're a skier, they go skiing 10, 15 days a year. In the summer, they come up 20, 30 days a year. And the rest of the time, they try to make a little money to pay their taxes and upkeep by short-term rental. That's the situation I'm talking about. And picking the number of days that they have to occupy it is going to be an arbitrary number. You want it to be high enough so somebody doesn't say, God damn it, I got to go to Montgomery and live in that house for 3 days so that it's,
But I don't think we can enforce how many days the owner's there, but what we can track is how many days it's rented.
No, you can, okay.
We're not going to know
on a
whether
register,
someone
on the
rent.
annual fee, you have the person state what days were they there and, and sign it under oath.
So actually, I have a question. So if somebody has properties, like say Judith lists her place on Airbnb, how do we know it's only being rented for 14 days?
Yeah.
Like when Judith hits that 15 day, does that mean somebody has to track Airbnb to know what's active at what time? I mean, we can't call Airbnb, right, and be like, hey, it's Town of Montgomery, we'd love a report out on this property.
Can you?
Would the taxes?
Yeah,
I mean, but I don't know if
The
you
tax
can.
department get that number by a dwelling, by a
But
unit.
that they won't give it. They won't give that to us. All we see is the total amount that we get from that bucket. They will.
Right.
They will not give us individual property data.
Well, wait a minute. But they don't, they define it as a short-term rental only if it's rented out for more than 15 or more days.
Yeah, but
No, I don't think Airbnb doesn't make that distinction. I think it would be somebody signing, like, I certify that I rent this less than 14 days or.
okay, so it's self-certification, and then if evidence was provided that it was.
then
So it's
the
reporting. It would be like if you had a neighbor that like could.
enforcement
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, wait a minute, is the state tax, sales tax due
Mills and
if
Rents.
somebody rents it for 5 days a year?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, then,
Yeah, but the taxes though, we only get the one lump sum payment that indicates what Mills and Rents tax were.
I'm quite sure that you could, like an enforcement agent or officer could go onto Airbnb if there was a house in question and view their calendar. But I guess if they had it blocked when they were there, then they wouldn't see it. Never
Yeah.
mind.
Once it's passed, you don't see what's happened, who's there.
But I was thinking for future, the enforcement officer could, if there was a neighbor complaint saying this is getting rented for more.
Could the planning commission get a subscription for a month to air DNA and like dive into just what metrics you can get? Like get full paid, costs you $100 or whatever it is, like, and then just be able to say, oh, it does have occupancy by listing, or like find out what data is already there to be had. It sounds like you did that last.
To clarify,
Yep.
if I get Air DNA, can I go in there and find out how many days a year a property is rented?
I don't know. That's what I'm asking.
And
Yeah.
I guess, I know that, and Darren Drevick has offered us his ARDNA
Great.
account before, so maybe we can.
'Cause that seems
take
like
him up
something
on
that
offer again
The
and
enforcement officer would.
Explore some.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Barry, I want to go back to the remainder of your comments, and then Kim had a comment that we'll jump to, or a question.
yeah, okay. The condition that the DRB has been putting on short-term rentals, the limiting number is 2 per bedroom. And here you have, the ordinance is 2 per bedroom plus 2. And I don't understand what that extra 2 would be. Now, if there are young children, I mean, I would say, plus 2 under the age of 7 or something like that. Doesn't seem like it would have a negative effect. But if you have a 2-bedroom house and 6 adults are coming in, if they're having an orgy, great, but
Oh, God.
you don't want a situation where 2 people are gonna be sleeping, in an upstairs loft that has no means of escape, etc.
I think often Airbnbs advertise pull-out couches, so I think that's what we had in mind of, and giving that extra sleeping room for people.
Well, as long as it's clear that every sleeping area must have, fire exits and et cetera, all of the safety requirements, then I don't see a problem.
Okay.
That could be something added to the checklist for the enforcement.
That was a self-certification item.
Yeah.
Okay.
On the application and the annual renewal.
And I don't see why you allow stacked parking. Why not, what's the reason to not require 1 parking space for every car, for every bedroom?
Can you define stacked parking real quick?
Stacked
That was a
parking
slide.
means if you have a driveway that you can park behind somebody, then that would count, and like you're blocking in somebody you're staying with, and the idea is if you're all renting a house together, you would just ask them of like, oh, I want to park your car, and it's an easy way, so they have the parking, and it's not affecting the properties around them at all.
Gotcha.
The main thing was to get it off of the street.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, this is a personal interest to me. One of the requirements, and I don't remember where it was asking the person's military status.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
As
an interesting
opponent
one.
of
Is that,
militarism, lifelong so far.
Yeah.
was there?
Diane, is that a state thing? Why do we have that in there?
To be honest, I don't remember. It must have come, it was either in the original draft or Yeah, I do not remember.
Yeah, maybe
why
we might have poached that from a town, different town, and, I don't know, maybe they give a break to veterans or something, but Barry, I have no idea why that's in there. Are you in favor of removing it, or?
I don't see any reason for it.
Yeah, okay, I agree.
I guess we need to find it first.
Yeah.
Toward the front.
Yeah, it was
I didn't have my pen when I
4219
started reading this. I didn't want.
under application.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's all I've got.
Barry, I just have one question, just to make sure I understand you correctly. So your thing about the ordinance needs a statement saying essentially that like, this can all change at any time?
Right.
Is there anything, like, does the lack of that present some liability? Like
You don't want to find out.
I always assume that like, we can amend a zoning ordinance, we can amend zoning bylaws through the statutory process at any point, and like, just because, like, I don't know.
Well, his comment was that the changes or amendments would not inherently grandfather people who have already complied with the existing ordinance.
Okay, right now, we've got,
Gotcha.
under zoning, we've given out, and I'm just gonna make up a number, 25 short-term rentals, right? Under zoning, you can't limit, you can't go back. That, they've got that, you know, as long as they stay in business.
Well, no, that travels with the land forever.
Well, yeah.
What?
That travels with the property
Right.
forever.
Right.
Gotcha, okay.
You can't take it away under zoning.
I think I understand what you're saying,
But
so,
they do
okay.
have to register if this ordinance or some semblance of it passes.
Okay.
Even if you have a conditional use, you still have to register under the new regs.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Now, if the purpose of this is to gather information, you know, let's not try to do too much at once.
Okay.
That's what we're doing, and make it clear that, and we're gonna be coming back with an ordinance and changes to zoning that we think are appropriate.
Okay, thanks, Barry. Kim, did you have a comment or a question that you wanted to share?
Yeah, I wanted to respond to something that has come up from a number of people in their comments. And hang on, I lost my filter. As far as looking at different types of Airbnbs, like one that's, like Barry was just saying, there's 3 types in his mind. And other people were talking about corporations buying houses and turning them into Airbnbs, you know, without living there versus places where people do live. And that is something that we put a lot of consideration into. And we talked about it extensively from oh, can you still hear me?
Yep, you're good.
Okay. And we have had Emily from Northwest Regional Planning Commission working with us on this ordinance and on the zoning bylaws. So just to shorten that discussion, there's really, unless somebody knows of an option that we haven't been presented with, we've been strongly advised not to, we can't discriminate. What we can do is create an even playing field, but an ordinance that we as a town adopt cannot be discriminating against any particular type of property owner. Just to clarify.
Okay.
Like we can't say, if you live here in Montgomery, these are your rules, but if you live outside of the town of Montgomery, these are your rules. Even if we wanted to do that, it's opening up the town up to potential major problems.
Okay, thanks, Kim. I did.
Question about that?
Yes, Barry, real quick.
Are you saying it would be discriminatory to favor a person who lives in the place that they're renting, lives in a place that they're renting, either part-time or full-time, as opposed to a strictly commercial?
The owner.
Owner occupied is one way that we can differentiate. We cannot bias or discriminate against a homeowner based on whether they're using it primarily for an Airbnb or part-time as an Airbnb.
And just to clarify, owner occupied, the trigger there would be, is it a homestead versus non-homestead property?
Yeah.
That's the filter we're using?
It's the state definition, yeah.
And you also have resident occupied differentiated from owner occupied.
You mean a vacation home?
No, resident occupied would be if you're living there and then
Right,
renting more than 3 bedrooms, and then you would.
So there was one quirk that I don't know if this was intentional, but it says for the 2 or fewer bedrooms in a resident occupied dwelling. So this is just a hypothetical. If someone has a house and rents out the house to one person as a long-term tenant, but then does Airbnb for 2 rooms, the owner isn't there. There's a renter, a long-term renter
Diane
who
can
has.
answer that question clearly.
Yes, I didn't know if that was like a loophole that needed to be.
Diane, please go ahead.
No, that is exactly to get at what Kim was talking about.
Okay.
It's that we can't, and it gets really, I think she did a great job, and I don't know that I can explain it any better. I think it's really complicated, it's hard to wrap your head around, but we can't discriminate against people based on where they live. And so Burlington has drawn this line too by focusing on both long-term basic residents. So either it can be owner or resident occupied. You maybe can draw a line there, but you can't discriminate. If an owner lived out of town, it can't be just owner occupied. You have to treat resident occupied the same as owner occupied. That's the best that I can wrap my head around it. So it gets really, it is, although I heard some ideas today, like I think it's pretty hard to draw that line and say like you want to restrict everybody who's, a commercial operation or whatnot, or who's an LLC, or I think that gets pretty tricky. Like you don't want to focus on where they live.
Thanks, Diane. Chris J., I saw your hand come up briefly. Did you have another comment you wanted to offer?
Yeah, like basically that was kind of my concern was, talk of could it be, well, we live in the village and later on the zoning gets changed? Like the idea was, I bought a house, it was run as an Airbnb. Now, potentially that could change, or even that I end up like kind of having to do the registration fee and then the conditional use.
So,
I mean, when you say the cheapest place was 130 something, I'm less than half that.
So 2 things can change. Zoning can change, and the bylaws and the ordinance could change. So under this scenario, say you bought a property in rural residential, Airbnb is a permitted use, you get your permit through the ordinance, and then all of a sudden zoning changes, and it says rural residential, it does not allow Airbnbs anymore. Would that be a grandfathered
No,
use?
yeah, that would be grandfathered under zoning.
Under zoning, but
Only
that,
until there's a conditional use.
No.
It would just be a conditional use that travels with the property, correct? Not a
Right.
permitted use.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, any zoning permit travels with the property.
but if there's no permit, so
Right, it's just an ordinance.
if I never got a conditional use permit, because I just bought a house in say rural residential, I Airbnb it, I'm operating as Airbnb, it's permitted use, there's no zoning permit associated with it, I have my permit through the ordinance. Zoning changes, and that use is no longer allowed in that district.
No, it's still grandfathered.
Until you
If
change
what
the
you were
use.
doing was legal under zoning
Yeah.
when you started doing it,
Yep.
and then zoning changes.
You could still do
But
it.
you can, but I don't see any reason why an ordinance has to follow that restriction. If Montgomery wanted to eliminate liquor stores, or bars.
So technically, you'd still be fine with zoning, but
An ordinance can be
An
more
ordinance,
restrictive.
the ordinance could change to say we're
Yeah.
not gonna allow that there, in which case that would become a prohibited use, even though zoning says,
I don't think
I don't think,
I think it would be grandfathered.
it would have to be
until they change the
grandfathered?
rules.
Okay,
It's something that needs some research.
okay, Diane, I see your hand up, so if you wanna comment on this, go for it.
Sure. What I heard from the LCT and what Emily was saying from the Regional Planning Commission was that the zoning regulations are where you have to put regulations on where things can go. And so I don't think the ordinance is ever going to say you can put them in this part of town but not this part of town. I think that's going to be in your zoning regs. So
Okay,
that's what I understand from them.
great, thank you, Diane. All right, anybody have any other final comments? I don't wanna rush things, but it is almost 8, and I do wanna let the board, yeah.
Just real quick,
All
I
right.
just want to say that the board should be very proud of the planning commission. They did a lot of work.
Mm.
And I went to a
Yes, we
couple
are.
meetings and I was very impressed with how they knew the state regulations. They knew what, what the town wants, and they really went by that. And I think they did a great job, and I really would like to see this get approved.
Great, thanks, Mary. All right, I'm gonna open it up now to the board for any comments board members have, or questions board members have that have not been addressed through the conversation. Why don't we start with Leanne?
I don't have anything else.
Nothing else? Okay, Mark?
What I'm seeing is, I think one of the biggest things is the registration fee. Maybe if we could talk to some of the other towns that are already doing it and see like how many hours, somebody's spending on doing it. So it'll give us more of an idea, how many hours we're gonna need somebody to do this. And try to look at that registration fee, try to get that a little more accurate. I know, once we get going, it'll be easier to figure it out, but I think the 300, may be a little bit high, especially per bedroom and stuff, so. That's the only thing I see, the rest of it looks great, and thanks to the planning commission for coming up with this.
I basically agree with Mark. It sounds again like the cost is a concern, whether it's the upfront cost or the sort of annual nature of it, and just that the town can charge a certain amount because other people do it, or that someone makes money doesn't mean the town should do that. But it also makes a lot of sense for an ordinance to charge what is required for the enforcement. And then I agree fully with that. And that's the piece that those are the two pieces I would were the concerns that stuck for me. Were just the fee structure and then the annual nature of it, and seeing if there are alternatives worth considering.
Yeah.
Thanks, Daniel. Suzanne?
Did you find any other ordinances that did a fee based on the number of bedrooms in a house versus a dwelling unit? So like if you had a fee that was, $50 per bedroom, and that would prorate it almost?
Do you remember, Diane?
I don't. I think some of them, I guess it's possible they didn't go, I suspect they didn't get to this level of detail, to be honest. The ones I read, they didn't necessarily say with clarity whether it was per bedroom, per unit. I can say the reason that we went with per unit was to make it more fair. If somebody was renting 3 bedrooms separately in a house, it's the same impact as if someone was renting the whole house together.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to make those equitable. That's why it's per dwelling unit as opposed to per bedroom. But I understand what you're saying, distinguishing the cost based on how big the unit is. But I'm pretty sure I didn't see anything like that. It might exist.
I don't remember seeing that. Let me go back and look at South Burlington's. That was pretty comprehensive. Again, it dealt with long and short-term rentals, but that one may be the only one that had a different fee structure, but.
I kinda don't think it did though.
No, I can't.
But I wonder if a structuring like that would maybe alleviate some of the that sort of idea of prorating, since we can't do it by residents per se.
Yeah, well.
If you rent a room for $90 and then you have a 3-bedroom house, you're not necessarily renting the house for $270 a night. I guess it might be. I guess it is close, but I don't know. Just a thought.
I did have one more question for Diane.
Yeah, go ahead.
Diane, was there any consideration in the ordinance about residents subleasing rooms?
We talked a little bit about, there were some other drafts out there that, there are some other ordinances around the state that do address that by either allowing it or not allowing it. We thought it's better to just like zoning, regulate the owner.
Okay.
And if the owner allows somebody to do that,
Okay.
then it doesn't, they'd be the one responsible anyway, but it's highly unlikely
Gotcha.
somebody renting to somebody long-term is even going to entertain that. So it just made more sense to simplify our administration and enforcement by focusing on the owner.
Awesome. Thanks, Diane.
Great. Any other questions, Suzanne?
No.
Okay. We define a registrant in the ordinance. Can the registrant be someone who is not the owner? And they would have to be an agent of the owner, or they'd have to demonstrate some sort of legal capacity within, I mean, I have a hard time seeing somebody paying $300 when they're not the owner to like just do something, but like, you never know, people trying to, I don't know, but like.
I think we meant it to be the owner because it's the person who holds the registration, and the person who holds the registration has to be the owner. So is that right, Patrick? I think
Yeah, I reread this afternoon, I picked up on that too.
Okay.
We may want to take a second look at that, but the way it's worded now, yes is my understanding.
Okay.
You could have a registrant and an owner.
Okay, because I mean, I
I
could,
think it has to be the same.
well, I could see like, say the property's owned by like Best Airbnb in Montgomery LLC, the agent of the corporation would be, so, I mean, again, it's not a huge deal, I just didn't know if there was an implicit separation there, or if it was just, we're using the same word twice. If it hasn't come up for the commission, it's not a problem. I was just curious if that was a point of conversation you had.
I don't think we talked. I feel like it's pretty fair to say we didn't really talk about that. But
Okay.
I believe
I would agree with that
I've
then.
been on this committee, but yeah, you're right, exactly. If the owner's the corporation's not going to necessarily be the one signing the application, but it might have just been a factor of like how this was written. It was easier to have the word registrant in there.
Yep.
So you needed distinguish in there.
It may be worth just doing a quick word search just to make sure that registrant and owner are used appropriately when it comes to certain things. Like, I don't know, just to make sure that like LLCs can, I mean, corporations are people too, right? Anyway, might be worth doing just to check. Inspections. In passing this ordinance and saying that we might require an inspection, which I think would be at the discretion of the person empowered to enforce this, does this ordinance give us a legal right to enter a property, or no, and essentially if they don't allow access, we wouldn't grant them the permit? Would we, how does that work?
Diane?
Yeah, we didn't get into.
Commercial property has less rights than a person's residence.
But I still can't walk up to a commercial property and demand the right of entry.
I think it was more self-certification.
The health department can.
But would it
But-
be, they wouldn't get, their application wouldn't be approved?
I mean, is that the trigger? I mean, that seems to me, anytime we're saying that we, the town, are gonna empower someone to go into someone's private residence, it makes, I balk a little bit, because like, that's a big deal, and so if the intent is that like, fine, we don't have the right to, but if you don't allow access, we're not granting you the permit.
I think that would make sense.
I think the only access that would be necessary would be for safety, and that could fall under the fire department with a charge, you know, if you need to inspect. I mean, otherwise, you know on the lister's cards how many bedrooms are in the house. You don't have to look at the bedrooms. I mean, unless you think it's uninhabitable,
Doesn't the
the other issues.
Airbnb people
Right.
have something to do with that, with safety?
I don't know. I don't.
You know, once they sign
Well,
up for
they're not-
Airbnb, they have to sign up this whole, the list, do they not?
It's kind of an honor system, though.
Yeah, like it's not, like Airbnb doesn't inspect or certify at all. It's based on what you what the owner puts in.
Which is kind of our process. It's self-certification. Yeah, we have carbon monoxide and smoke in every bedroom.
Up to 8 bedrooms, like, over 8 bedrooms, then the state steps in, right? It's the state's short-term rental safety laws, I think.
They certify on.
I mean,
They-
not 8 bedrooms, eight guests, then it turns to the state overrides it.
Okay, so putting aside that, the question of access, I guess, was my main question. So it sounds like the intent is that there is no right of access granted through this ordinance or anything like that. It's just that if you don't allow someone in to do the inspection, you're not getting your permit. Okay,
I think if it's a fully commercial operation, it's inherent that inspection is allowed. If it's your vacation rental that you're renting out, or if it's your, rooms in your own home where you're living, might be a different situation.
But where does
If you own a building you own only to rent out through Airbnb or whatever,
That's a public building by state law.
yeah, I mean,
What if you
if
stay
you
there
lived
like,
in Burlington, if you owned an apartment building in Burlington,
Yeah.
you would have to have a license to rent each apartment, and the city's building inspector could come and inspect it at any time.
but if it's unoccupied a third of the year, I rent it out a third of the year, and I'm there a third of the year, is that a commercial business?
Well,
No.
it is, semi,
It's not like, so, there's still that gray area
Yeah.
with commercial,
Blanket
so.
it is if you
Okay.
don't allow the
No permit for
inspection,
you,
then you're
gotcha,
denied the permit.
okay.
Yeah.
The 4.1.6.3, this is, town provides the notification of denial to the mail carrier or places in an official United States Post Office mailbox. Can we just go by postmark? Is there a reason why we wouldn't go by postmark? Just because I don't know, it's hard to document evidence of like when you handed this to a mail carrier. I mean,
I think I'm
Postmark
comfortable
works.
with postmark.
Yeah, I think the reason we did this is to align with zoning regs.
Okay.
This was a recommendation to some degree from the zoning administrator. This would align with how those work.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it could be changed.
okay. Self-certification, short-term rental. I think that covers.
I know that, and I don't know who the email was written to of Liz's concerns, that she mentioned April 1st.
Timing.
That we picked April 1st because we were thinking it was the end of their busy season. We were trying to get not a busy
Yep.
season, but that date, if there's a better time for the town, we just didn't want to fall in the middle of winter when it would be
Probably the highest.
the
yeah.
highest,
Yeah.
like, then everything would, if there was any issues, they'd have the summer to straighten it out before fall when it was
Yeah.
getting rented
Yep.
again. But I don't think anybody on the planning commission was set on it being April 1st.
Oh,
If you
okay,
guys
yeah.
want to tweak that in any way.
Okay. I think that was the only.
We were trying to, like Alyssa said, we're trying to make it past the busy season for the town as well as going into the slow season for the renter.
Yep.
Perfect.
This is, what's the traveled lane on a class 3 road?
middle?
Yeah.
Well, I understand like on a state highway, you have the white lines, right? And so like if you're parked over the white line, you're in the traveled lane. If it's a class 3 road and you're parked on the side of the road, what determines if you're in the traveled lane?
I think you're in
12
travel
feet from the
lane.
center line.
Is it? Okay.
12 feet 3 inches or something like that.
Yeah, I think
Half of 3 rods.
Okay. All right.
there's a 3-rod road. Yeah.
Oh, wait, no, it's not half of 3 rods.
Do we need to
No,
call
that would
Cole,
be the whole-
aware of Cole?
That'd be a whole
already?
right.
Yeah,
I think it's 12 feet from the center line.
Yeah.
Okay. Overnight camping. 5.11, there's an element of that seems like, I understand the intent, but say you rent a house, it's in rural residential, there's no neighbors, and the kid wants to pitch a tent in the backyard.
That's not the thing. I think you're referring to campers, aren't you?
No.
Like bringing in a camper?
What number are
No.
This is saying registrants shall not allow overnight camping on the same property as the short-term rental unless the property on which the camping takes place has a town zoning permit that authorizes use of the property as a campground.
And I think but that we were meaning for it, I think that's an area that could use further attention, because right now, we're working on what the definition of the campground is for zoning.
Okay.
So, Diane, is there clarity you can bring to that area?
I guess the only thing I would say is this is a bit redundant with if the zoning regulations establish what a campground is, and if the activity were to require a campground permit, we don't really need to say it in this ordinance for that to be true. So in some ways, this is just sort of belt and suspenders.
Okay.
So
Here's one though, what about like yurts and safari tents and things like that that are being rented?
So that would be a campground though, right?
I mean, but like my
by
neighbor has
zoning-
a property with a
But that's
safari
a,
tent.
that's a fixed structure that she rents as the structure itself, right? It's not like she's renting a house and someone puts a tent in the backyard.
Right, but does that tent,
I can tell you why that came about.
Isn't that the dwelling unit itself?
is that the dwelling unit? It doesn't have, it's not
I think
zo-
that-
it's not like she pays taxes on
But
it
then
as
there's
a
the other
dwelling unit.
question of people who have, like, our intent wasn't to regulate this at all, but people who have raw land and they rent out a tent space for a tent, like hip camp in that direction.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
that does not
That's not the
fall
intent.
under this
That,
ordinance.
our intent was that unless it's more than 3, then it would fall under a campground.
I appreciate that you keep on saying intent while talking about the camping. Great job. The 511 on camping, is that clause still necessary if you just say that, the outdoor camping or overnight camping doesn't extend the number of people that are allowed to occupy the space?
I think that,
Yeah.
that would fix the.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, well, we'll
Because it is making it so that it's not impacting the neighbors.
Okay, gotcha.
well, we'll flag, that's flagged. So I think we have a handful of things to revisit, potentially add. We've got a list here. I think
Is the list going to be the responsibility of the planning commission or the select board to figure out, or like what should we do as the
No, that's a great question. I think what I would do is follow up with an email to both boards with this list of questions, and then essentially, what can we do via email, what can't we do via email?
I posted a bunch of the questions here in the minutes.
Okay, so Zan's got some in the minutes, we've got some here. Maybe what I will do is get directly in contact with the chair of the commission, and then we can decide who wants to handle what. I don't want to do anything,
So
because
then we're not violating open
not doing it by
meeting.
email.
I've got one of the exemptions to a violation of the open meeting law is material prepared for discussion at the meeting. So you send out a list of questions, and everybody responds with their potential answers, and then that's included in the minutes, and it comes on the agenda, and you discuss it.
So you're saying
And that's where you make the
emails
decision.
themselves would be recorded in the minutes? Would the emails themselves be recorded in the minutes?
I think it would be a good
as
idea
work
to.
product? Okay,
Yeah, just probably not required, but in terms of transparency.
okay. Well, we can figure out a process that works under open meeting. I think my biggest concern reading this is around the enforcement, the personnel aspect. And I only say that because Montgomery's got ordinances on the books that we don't enforce. We have a vacant building ordinance, and we have not been able to find a vacant building inspector for the 6 years it's been on the books. It's basically just an ordinance that collects dust. We have a parking ordinance. We have yet to figure out how to enforce that. And I'm not saying that we would have an issue finding someone to do this job, especially if we've paid them a good wage. But my one concern is that we pass this and no one wants to be the the STR person, right? Because it can put you in a tough spot with neighbors, with friends. It puts a target on your back to some extent. Like, I don't mean that literally in the context of the world we live in now. I mean like, I should clarify that expression might not be appropriate. It's an odd position to be in for someone that lives in town. And if someone doesn't, is this something that, so that's my one concern overarching is like,
I wouldn't have a problem doing it.
yeah. I'm not saying that we can't. And this is different than maybe a vacant building inspector, but that's my one concern.
This has been I've talked to a few people about this, but this has been a peeve of mine for a long time. There is no enforcement. And Ellen does a great job, but she's got 3 hours. There's no way she's gonna do any enforcement. I mean, I don't think she can.
I don't think she's interested in the short term.
Right, no, but my point is, if you can put a lot of these things, if you need a building inspector and you need an animal, maybe not so much the animal thing, but a lister, and a lot of these things can be put into one job.
Well, that's what
And
town
then you got
administrator.
somebody that's maybe 20, 25 hours a week, and you're getting all this stuff done that hasn't been done for a long time.
Yep. No, I mean, there's different ways we can look at it. There's obviously things that have to come into play in terms of how many hours, what benefits kick in, from a financial standpoint when we're thinking about costs. So yeah, again, I'm not saying that we can't do it. I'm just saying that my concern reading this is I'd want to make sure that we land in a place where we have an ordinance and that we actually enforce it.
Yeah.
Right.
So we've got a punch list. We will share that out. I will stop at this point and say, does anyone on the board want to make an affirmative motion or action to any extent? You don't have to, but that's always an option.
No, I think we've
No, I
got some
think it
more
needs
stuff.
work.
Okay.
Some work to do.
But it's really well.
Yeah, amazing job, guys.
Thanks.
So thank you to the planning commission.
Thank you
Thanks to the
very
DRB for your input here.
Yeah.
Appreciate all your time on this.
Yes. Yeah.
Great. So we will follow up by email on next steps of who handles what, and we will go from there. And this will be back on our agenda for our next meeting.
Yep.
Great. All right. Well, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it for the town?
No, we got some more.
No. So
we're not done.
so at this point, we're going to move out of the short-term rental discussion, and we're going to move on to the agenda. At this point, I'd like to recognize any visitors that are here for something other than the short-term rental conversation. Anybody in the room? Anybody on Zoom have something for visitors other than short-term rental? Okay, then we'll keep moving. If someone on Zoom does want to hop on, just raise your hand or sing out. Public Works, there's no municipal wastewater project update. I'm still waiting to get a quote back from Aldrich and Elliott on the engineering services for step 3. I emailed them last Wednesday to check in, haven't heard back yet, but that would be the next step there. Streetscape project, I reached back out to the engineering team there today to see if we can finally get the quote on what it'll take to get us through right-of-way. Folks remember with Bethany's discussion that like that next kind of thing we had to do was get through right-of-way. Once that was done, it would open up the ability to access other funds. We just needed to figure out what it would cost to get through right-of-way. I'm hoping we can get that soon. He did say that he's been working on it. I don't have anything specific on water system. It just struck me that we're the water commission and we never have water system on the agenda.
All the easements back?
Not for the wastewater project yet. We've got, I don't know, a handful that we're still in, that we're in conversations with or waiting on. There's nothing on water system. We'll go to general updates. Western Star Truck. Mark, take it away.
So we've got the new Western Star, we've got the chassis. We paid for that part. So as far as the dump, the box and the plow and the whole setup, Viking can't even, has a schedule for March of 2027 to even start putting the truck together. So we won't even get it till the end of the summer of 2027. So we talked to Jamie Valancourt, and he will sell the dump, plow, and wing back to us from our the truck we sold him for $12,500. And then he will redo the whole dump, new lighting, new hydraulic hoses, everything will be new bed chain. And then sandblast and repair everything. That'll be by the hour. And then the plow and everything would go on the new truck. So for Viking, it was going to be $115,000 to get it all set up for the dump and the plow. Jamie, we're probably looking at between 50 and 60,000, you know, with the 1250.
Wow. And like
and he could,
Wait, including-
and he could have it ready in like a couple months.
Including the 1250 or not? Including?
Not included.
Okay, plus.
Including the 1250.
Oh, including.
Yeah.
1250.
Yeah.
Okay.
And can you just repeat? It was he would sell back the plow, dump. What was it?
You'd sell back the dump, plow, and wing, plus hydraulic, everything. You know, it's hydraulic tank and everything on the other truck that we would need on this new truck. And then just which actually it'll probably be in better shape than some of the new ones that we're getting.
Yeah. And we'd have it before 2029.
We'd have it in a couple months.
Yeah. Great.
Are there any concerns with it being used and refurbished?
No, I don't think so. I mean, as far as the plow goes, you just change the cutting edges, and most of it's, you know, is in pretty good shape.
Great.
So then we could go get the truck and bring it up here and then have him.
Yeah.
So I'd like to make a motion to do this.
Do you want to just restate the motion one more time for Suzanne?
So the motion will be for the Western Star, the new Western Star truck, to have to buy the dump, to have Jamie Valancourt install the dump, plow, and wing from our old truck onto the new Western Star for between 50 and 60,000.
Great.
Hard to tell exact number because it will be by the hour, a lot of it.
So do you want to read that back, Suzanne?
Yeah, let me just make a little sense.
I think that's.
Do we want to put like for no
Yeah.
more than 60,000 or something? We usually
Do you want to cap it?
We usually use language.
Do you want to cap? So usually if we're going to do something we don't
Yeah.
quite know, we'll say not to exceed.
Yeah, maybe not to exceed. Yeah, not to exceed 60,000.
Not to exceed 60?
Yeah. And it covers us. I mean, Jamie stands behind his word too.
Yeah.
He's vocal, so.
Yep. No concern about Jamie. It's more just making sure we got it
Oh, yeah.
documented right. So that,
Yeah. Yeah. The big thing is that other truck's gonna be sitting there for 2 years.
Yeah.
And
Rusting out, collecting dust.
with the new emissions and everything on it, it's not good for them to sit like that.
Okay, so this is what I have. A motion to have Jamie Valancourt install the dump plow and wing on the new wing from the old truck,
Yeah.
right? Onto the new Western Star truck for a price not to exceed $60,000.
So does that include selling us back the equipment?
Yeah, yeah, I think that would include the 1250.
Okay, just want to make sure.
So let's say install
I
the
would
dump
say,
plow
yeah.
and wing from the old truck and service, you said, the Western Star? Because he was going to do the hydraulics and the chains and.
Well, no, I mean, everything will get installed.
Okay, all right,
It'll
all
be
right, cool.
completely installed on
All
the
right.
truck, ready to go.
So then, yeah,
All
Bob
right.
makes a motion.
The plow and sander.
To have Jamie Valancourt install the dump plow and wing from the old truck onto the new Western Star truck for a price not to exceed 60,000.
Yeah.
Shouldn't there be something about the refurbishment or the like the quality of it? Because
That'll be.
as that stands, he could just give us like rip it off the old truck with all the old stuff.
Well, that would include sandblasting and repainting everything.
Okay.
You know.
Okay.
All right, well, if we're good, is there a second?
Yep, I'll second it.
Thanks, Daniel. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously.
Also, I haven't seen the loan paperwork come in for that truck yet. Usually we have to all sign it,
Yeah, I think,
because she wrote the check.
but wasn't she waiting to figure out what the final amount of the loan would be?
Well, the final amount was approved at town meeting was 300,000.
Yeah, but I think she was
Yeah.
waiting to figure out like what actually the amount of the loan. My understanding was that Aaron needed a dollar amount to go to the bank to get the loan paperwork with.
Well, I think that's what the number would be, and then if we didn't use it all.
Okay, I just don't know if the conditions of the loan would change based on the amount we're borrowing. But we can ask her.
We've already, I think it was around 200,000 with the, we
Okay.
paid already, so.
Well, we can certainly follow up with her. That my recollection was that there was this like she needed information but we can make sure.
But I know at town meeting we
Yep. Yeah, there was definitely the authorization to borrow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll follow up.
We don't
with Aaron.
borrow at all. I mean.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, if we don't take it out, we don't pay it back. I just didn't. There was something that she had said in the email about needing info, but we can chase that down.
Yeah.
It's just getting the right info.
Well, I
to the
mean,
right
now we
people.
know.
Yep.
We got another 60,000. So.
Yep. Cool.
Then we'll have the other single axle truck that we can sell for probably 25 to 30,000.
Yep.
Right after we get the other one, so that'll help.
Yeah.
Help us too.
The annual truck shop.
The annual truck swap. yeah. Like a swap with trucks.
I'm just concerned about the 2017, that one lasting. That'll be 10 years old if we wait for this other.
Yep.
This other.
Yeah. Well, great. Glad we have Jamie to hop on that.
Yeah.
All right, moving along. The next item added was Creamery Bridge turnaround, Mark.
Yeah. I just wanted to explain what happened. I don't know, just that, a resident put rocks in the turnaround, so we couldn't get turned around, so we pushed the rocks back so we could get turned around. And the resident wanted us to move the rocks back, but we couldn't move them back because we needed to use our turnaround, so. And the town's been using the turnaround for like 40 years, so. I think some of the issues was we were eroding the bank and stuff, so. With the rocks there, we aren't getting anywhere near the bank anymore, so I'm hoping that takes care of what the issue was.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to bring it to everybody's attention.
Yeah.
What's going on there? Charlie did some investigating on.
Yeah, so I'm trying to pull up
the lines and when the road was put in. And
yeah, so I went back through and found all the documentation of when the thing was changed, the agreement between the landowners and the town, the order to discontinue the road as the relocation. I found the survey plots for the road relocation. I also went back and with Liz's help did a deed search of all the deeds to figure out, whether or not any portion of this mentioned a turnaround. Also went back through the select board minutes from that period of time, and there is no record that we can find that mentions a turnaround.
Yeah.
I'm still in a conversation with the property owner. Essentially, what I've asked the property owner is to allow us the use of this turnaround through this winter season, with the expectation that we would seek and find, if we are physically able to, a alternative location moving forward, because it is still the position of the landowner that they do not want that turnaround there. The landowner actually requested that the rocks be put back before Thanksgiving. They are not back yet. We're juggling a few different things. One is plowing. One is having a school bus that has to access property there. So we are obligated to ensure that students can get picked up safely. So those are kind of all the things that we're talking about. The landowner has not affirmatively said to me no to my request to allow us to use it throughout the winter. He hasn't also said yes.
And the turnaround is on his land.
Yes, it is outside of the road right of way, so part of the turnaround is on his property. I will say that I'm not saying that the board is
we still haven't
anxious.
determined if it even is his property.
It is his property. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We did. So the deeds. So just if you ever want to go back in Montgomery history and get confused, look up the properties owned by this guy Watson and the Gibu Valley Company. He owned basically all of the western part of town at one point. So trying to do deed research of lands that were once Watson's to somebody is like it is a confusing thing. But we did figure out. Yeah, I think we have the chain of custody, as you might call it.
Yeah.
The recourse is if we cannot come to an agreement with the landowner and no alternatives can be found. I'm not saying this is what the board wants to do or what the board should do. I'm just saying this is what the town's recourse would be. There's two options for the board to essentially say, yeah, we know you don't like the turnaround, but we're going to keep using it. One is through dedication and acceptance. That is the process by which we go back and find in the minutes where it was discussed as a turnaround. There was some implicit use of a turnaround that we can go back to say, look, it was everyone's understanding based on these documents that it was a turnaround. We've all known it. We've used it forever. We can't find any evidence of that. So I don't think dedication and acceptance would work. The second path the town could go down would be essentially to claim necessity and take the area that is part of that turnaround. Both of those would require court processes. They'd be expensive. They'd be long. Again, I'm not advocating the town go down that route. I'm just putting it out there as a point of information. I'm still hoping we can come to an agreement with that landowner and other landowners to find a workable long-term solution.
Well, what I'm hoping is we took care of the problem that he had, you know, the erosion and stuff, that we're trying to mitigate that. And I know that was one of his big issues, so hopefully that's, you know, what, I don't know what his other issue is.
What his other issue is?
There's been a number of issues that have come up through the course of our email exchange.
I mean, the person doesn't live there, so it doesn't care if we don't plow the road, so, I mean, that's some
Is
of the
there
issue.
an option, like, obviously this would also be expensive, but whereby we have, what is it, 25 feet from center on both sides,
Yeah.
right? Where you kind of like took the road and like split that on both sides and made a new turnaround that was sort of like, well, we're gonna take a little bit of yours and a little bit of yours.
It's
'cause
kind
we
of
have-
hard because there's a big ditch on the other side.
I know that
I mean,
the ditch.
theoretically.
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean, if you put a culvert, like, I know it's not an easy solution, but
I mean,
is
one
that a-
solution would be if
Right.
we can't find a turnaround somewhere else that a landowner will work with us as, that could be a solution.
And that would no longer be on their land?
As long as the turnaround is located within the complete right-of-way of the town, but that's only a 50-foot.
And how wide does a turnaround need to be?
Well, right now, I mean, we're looking probably like 70 feet.
Yeah, and you gotta turn a school bus and a fully
Yeah.
loaded plow truck around.
Yeah.
So 50 would be cutting it close.
I mean, my feeling is we put the turnaround in, we used it for 40 years, and the person bought the property with the turnaround on it, so I don't know what the issue is. I mean,
Yeah, again,
that's-
it's
That's my feeling,
understood, yep.
you know.
Will change, Mark.
So,
And the property owner is not even in his name, it's in his father's name, so that's the
Has
other issue
anyone
too.
spoken, is the father, it's like.
I have not brought this up with.
I could see if we just put the turnaround in, okay, that's an issue, but when you've been using it
No,
for
he's
40
yeah.
years.
I had lunch with him a couple months ago,
So-
yeah.
Think about somebody different.
I mean, we'll just see what he says.
Yeah, so like I said, I've still got a dialogue open with them. I'm hoping we can find something that works for everybody in whatever term needs to, and we cannot do anything adversarial. That's my hope.
Yeah,
So I will keep chatting, and I will pass on news as I have it.
okay,
Yep,
we'll keep turning around there.
for the time being. That brings us to old business. There's no updates on the renovation project yet. I was, we'll carry that forward. There were some things that Liz and, I forget the gentleman's name, wanted to chase down around some things, but no news there, so. So that brings us through the end of our agenda. There's no liquor license, tobacco license, no fleet permits. So unless anybody else has anything for discussion, then a motion to adjourn would be in order.
We're all wearing green.
What, I was just gonna say that. What color clothing are we gonna wear next time?
Minutes ago, I was like,
Yeah, I have no idea. I was just about to mention.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Team colors.
All right,
Too funny.
so how about that motion?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thanks, Mark. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thanks,
On
Leanne.
that point.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? All right, motion carries, and the meeting stands in adjournment. Thanks so much.
Thanks everyone for coming.